Introduction to C# programming. Well, first, just a little bit introduction about me. My name is Nikolai. I run the company OneDev Consultancy. I'm a software engineer or an architect based in Norway, and I'm really passionate about teaching other people like you. If you want to join our Discord, you can do so by using the link here that are on the presentation. You can also send me a message if you have any questions about programming, and I will try my best to help you out. So welcome to the introduction to C# programming. We're going to walk through the essential concepts of C#. What is it that will set you on the path to becoming a proficient programmer? And by the end, hopefully, you will be able to write your first C# program. You will also understand the architecture of C# applications, and maybe you will even make sense of how it's compiling. So let's jump right in. So what I want you as a student to focus on when you are viewing this type of video that I'm lecturing, I want you to understand the architecture of C# programs. I want you to be able to explain the basic structure of a C# application, including namespaces, classes, and methods, and all these kind of things, and be able to describe how the C# compiler transforms source code using the CLR and executes that into programs. Well, let's look at the program written in C#. If you have been watching other videos, you might see in that using system is here, class program, and you've seen the static void main. In newer versions of C#, maybe you're not even seeing the static void main, but this is the general way that you will see an entry application, the way it starts. So what is exactly programming? Well, it's the art, in my opinion, it's like creating something of value, giving it to a customer, or making a game, which is actually really fun. And you transforms basically bits and bytes and instructions that the computer will do for you, and that can actually become a game, it can become a website, it can become whatever you want it to do. If you want to hook it up to Arduino and do something to control the temperature in your room, hey, you can do it with programming. So it essentially tells the computer what to do, these kind of instructions. And you can also use a graphical user interface and those kind of things as well. But what does it really take to be a programmer? There are many videos out there about programming, but how can you stand out? I think the basic concept is to have creativity and problem-solving ability, but also attention to detail is very important. I keep always learning here as one of the important parts, because programming is essential, but all the new things that are happening will make it so that you need to always be learning. And of course, lots of practice. When I teach students, I see that they're struggling with some type of concepts, but once they are practicing and they don't give up, that's when they get the eureka moment. So what is really a programming language? Well, you know, human languages, they tend to work by saying, hello, how are you? What are you doing? Can we do something today? All these kind of things. And we have different type of languages like Spanish, like Italian, and other languages like Korean, etc., maybe that are more difficult. But it's actually some of the essential parts here that we have in programming. Because most programming languages, they include like, for example, C#, they have common elements. For example, we are storing data using variables and arrays. We make decisions using something called like if statements, which are like telling the program if something happens, do that or do this. And if we need to repeat actions, we can use something called the loop and also a while, which we'll get more into. But it basically helps us to loop over without writing the same code over and over again. And one of the greatest advantages of C# is how it allows us to reuse existing code because the language, it comes bundled with libraries, which you will see that are imported from different namespaces like math calculations, etc. So we don't need to reinvent the whole wheel like you have to do in some other languages. So just like the way you think about programming, just think about it as a tool to be able to help you get things done. But let's take a look at Hello World. Let's see how it's written in different type of languages. So here you see the C language, which is just printf. Here's the C language, and here's the C++ stdcout hello world. It looks a bit weird with this, right? But that's the way it works. And Java system out println, which we're using like a namespace, which are system, which you probably will see also in C#. So they have some similarities to each other as well. And here you see Python, which is a little bit more simpler. It just have print, not printf, not system.out.print, because these things are going on behind the scenes and they're just trying to make it more simpler for us. But hey, let's just jump into Hello World, and actually let's take a dive into our IDE so that we can actually see what's going on. I will just show you on the screen here how it looks like, and we can just take a look at what's really going on. So Hello World is actually the most famous program out there. It's the first thing that you will see as a programmer, and it's just saying Hello World, right? And you see, we are using the class program, and we have a static void main. So you see in the beginning of the presentation, and we do have Console.WriteLine hello world. Why? Well, because we are stating the obvious. We are stating that we are talking to the world, and we are going to basically become programmers. So before we dive into the rest of this, like all the things that using system and all these things, let's dive in and see how it actually works in action. And we can say hello world, and we should actually get something if we do this correctly. So we need to pass in the console and then add the n and then say hello world. So if you're doing this, you should see something like this going on the screen. You can clear it, and you will see that now you have a sort of a solution inside. Here you can see the Console.WriteLine. But to make it look like the one we had in the presentation, we can just add back all the stuff. And it's just doing that by saying, okay, we want the class, should be a program, and we would like to have static void main, pass in some string arguments. This is when you are actually executing it on the console. You can pass in arguments. And here you see we have console.writeline.hello world. It's basically the same thing, but we can get rid of it if we want to, because they have added a feature in the newest feature of C# so that we actually don't need it. But to be more familiar, this is the way that we usually would have do it. We would have class of a program, static void main, and what are going to happen inside. And here you see it executes perfectly fine hello world. So congratulations, you have now written your first program using C#. And this is kind of a bit boring in my opinion, because yes, it's fun, you're seeing how it works, it says hello world, but you're just getting started, so you should at least have a celebration for this. If we now get rid of this static void main type of thing, and we just do how it was before, you will see that it will actually run perfectly fine, because kind of inside of what's going on here, they're kind of adding that in the compiler. It's actually possible to see that as well. Let's actually do that. Let's take a look how it looks like. Let's accomplish this by doing .NET build. Let's build the application. Let's do a .NET run afterwards. We see it says hello world, which we would expect. We can do a cat. We will probably not see the things that have been added here, but we can dive a little bit more into this. So we see the bin here. Notice that you see there's a DLL file. If we right click it, we can take a look at the options that we have. We have an assembly explorer, and we see that we are using hello world, MSIL, all these things.
2 hours later.
But what are we looking at? So we did find public static class console. But here we have Console.WriteLine. So we're kind of seeing what's happening behind the scenes now. Read-only object, sync object, etc. Something is going on here. But what are we looking for? I would like to see if they're adding back this static program, you know? Let's dive a bit more. So basically 3 hours later, after I drill down into the assemblies of the DLL that you can see here, we can actually see that the framework or the compiler is adding these things, even though they're not written in the program.cs. How can we say that so confidently? Well, look at the meta def here. Implement flags, flags to be named, blah, blah, blah. And you see it says, a little bit down, we can drill down to see it says name program. So we know that it's program.cs here. Remember before we had namespace, but with the newest feature C#, we don't need that. That doesn't mean that we don't need that. It just means that syntax sugar, you could call it, it's making us be more similar to using a Python program. That's what they are doing. But the compiler is not rewritten in that way. So we still are adding that as the DLL are being compiled.